Mm. What is a normal day like in Chikurubi Maximum Prison? You wake up in the
Ah,
morning. Mhm.
I've always avoided, and I'm also going to avoid answering this question in depth.
No, 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 no,
Because if
no.
I'm to do that, just if I'm to do
On
this,
my
just,
platform, we are not avoiding
just
anything. Tell me,
if I'm
it's a Monday
just
morning in Chikurubi.
if I'm to
It's
go,
it's an exclusive, so at least.
ah, of course I avoid some, because you know what, if I'm to go in depth of the day-to-day reality,
Mm.
people may end up believing that this guy is insane, he needs to confine to it. To make it real. But that place, it's hell. It's hell on earth.
Mm.
Everything you can imagine, it's hell on earth. The prison, number one, issues of crowding. The, yeah, it's hell on earth, and it would need, above all, mental strength, which borders on spiritual level. You know, if
What
you are to
the
survive,
times? Mm.
so
Were the times that
well,
you'd go
I
in
can
the
speak.
corner?
I can speak. There are basics like, if I'm going to the toilet, you appreciate the flow that I can easily go to the toilet, just like that.
Mm.
Because someone like me, who, yeah, I have to explain for you to understand. Someone like me, I grew up, in our home. I would have my own room, sleep in my own room, go into my own bathroom. I would have my
Going to the
toothbrush.
toilet whenever you feel like you need to use the
Whenever I feel like,
toilet.
and all the privacy that involves going to the toilet, going to the bathroom, even sleeping in my own room. And so, but then in prison, you start to appreciate that, brushing teeth can be a privilege. Bathing can be a privilege. Going to toilet on its own can be a privilege, which you would need an extra muscle for you to simply go to the toilet. Because going to the toilet entails you having a bucket, entails you also being able to stand in a long queue, entails
Even if
you.
you're pressed, everybody's pressed.
A lot of people end up missing their own, you know,
Uh,
pants. They end up even in their own blankets, because going to the toilet when you don't have water which is also difficult to access, it's serious sport. It's serious sport. So even my recent, period in prison, I actually was very grateful for the regime for having imprisoned me earlier when I was young, for helping me understand prison condition when I was young. Eh, like starting from the period from 2016, I was
mm.
very thankful, because 2016 is when I first got into jail. But from 2011, I've been in and out of police cell, and those issues I kind of understood them, and naturally, uh, I would have to, my body naturally would change in terms of appetite. It would lower it, because I know that
Mm.
till it is serious sports.
Actually, I can see you've gained weight now than the day that you came out. You've been eating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is very sad listening to you
Yeah.
explaining all.
And also,
But what is? Hmm?
yeah, and also, if you have political issues to do with my own food, I had to make sure that I eat with at least 5 people, and I would explain them the dangers of eating, sharing food with me, that it can be poison. So it enabled us to, to have more eyes on my food, more eyes on my things, more eyes. So, because even if it's little, I tell them, no, we're eating together, comrades.
Mm.
So we have
Oh,
to be very more careful, because if I am to die, we'll die together. So, in there, what also made me to survive were brotherhood. It was kind of brotherhood, it was a kind of
mm.
a comradeship that we developed. It was a kind of, and like my brother Patson, I never know at which point he got poisoned. I never know at which point, but when we were in prison, if you had to ask, one of the guys who were with Latina Umbrella, there was a time when we would find our food tempered. And the Lord said, no, Marco, let's no longer eat this. But Patson was humane, was a nice guy. He believed in humanity, trusted people. he believed in the goodness of, human beings. So we never know whether it was in prison or it was when he got abducted. We don't know at which point, because I believe he was poisoned at some point. So these are the details.
So tell me, when you were in prison, Marco, I just want to understand, because obviously this is another different community. You are in a cage and you people have all the time to talk about things. So what are the things that people are saying in prison when you were there about the whole Zimbabwe political situation, economic situation? What exactly are people saying in prison?
In prison, one thing that also made me to survive, especially my last ordeal, survive that long, it was because the prisoners themselves understood and respected the fact that I was a political person, that I had not committed any crime. And they understood that. And they respected me for that. And they also, above all, understood that the fight that I was having, the fight that we were having, as activists, they understood that it was not a personal fight. They understood that it was not an individual fight. They understood that it was not a selfish fight. They understood that it was also a fight for them. Because I would talk, just I would ask them questions, but you are an armed robber. You are charged with that robbery, with fraud. What did you want to do when you were in grade 1? Teachers would ask us, what do you want to do in class? What do you want to do? And they would tell me, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a doctor. Then I would ask them, then what went wrong? A good number of them say, we could not progress with education because of expensive school fees, because of money. Then others said, no, we managed to be police officers, we managed to be soldiers. But then it's not paying, it's not making sense.
Salary. Yeah.
And I can tell you the rate of armed robberies, the increase in armed robberies, a good number of the people who are participating in those armed robberies, they are soldiers, they are police officers. Check the 2.7 million, there were soldiers involved. Money is, I'm sure it may be the highest that happened in Zimbabwe. Check even the most recent one, like the robbery at Sari, it was soldiers, commando. And they have no option but to do that for survival. Then you get others, they will tell you that everything does not work. We have no option. Those who are in power are also stealing. So, and they are surviving because they are stealing. They are only arresting us because we don't have power to protect ourselves. And it's true, they're not wrong. If we have a war president, Emerson Mnangagwa, and his kids, we know the terrible twins, they've stolen drugs money meant for COVID. They are in charge of the gold mines. They are running all the, violent militia, that the magnitude violent militias in the gold industry. They can even steal money. Like, let's go on a simple one of corruption. They go and steal 60 million drugs money, and they can't be arrested. Why? Because their father moves with a motorcade. The soldiers. The soldiers are armed. So if he commits corruption, is that not armed robbery? If he steals money and he has soldiers and they're armed, is that not armed robbery? So they are setting the wrong standards. And if you check, most in Zimbabwe, all those who have assets of prestige, the Lamborghinis, the mansions, the everything, who are flaunting their assets of prestige on social media, flash lifestyles on social media, they are one way or another linked to politicians, and now, especially now, the first time. So it's one thing that we cannot run away from. This culture of crime is being set a standard from the very top. This culture of impunity, the standards are being set at the very top. So these are issues which you cannot run away from as a country. We are no longer setting proper and good examples for the young people. we are no longer setting proper and good examples for our kids. Education no longer pays. How can you maybe tell me, maybe you have a better strategy? How can you advise the young Zimbabwean that education is the key to survival when they pretty know very well that there are those who have gone to, who are educated, who went to and passed their O levels, were told that if you pass the O levels, you now have the keys to a better life, good life. And then they passed the O levels, and they were told that no, the kids do not fit in. Yeah, the kids not fit in after they pass the O level. They go for A levels. They're told that no, you need better keys. They go to tertiary level. They graduate and say, now we've gotten the keys. Now is the time to break my parents' cows that they sold for me to go to school. Now is the time to pay my relatives or those who took care of me. And then when you think you've graduated, you now have the keys to a better life. Keys to life. You find that there's no door at all. Yes, you have the key, but there's no door to opportunities. There's no door to employment. There's no door to hope. There's no door to the future. So all this also enabled, these were discussions that we were having with prisoners. And at the end of the day, they had only one plea. That, please, guys, I know with the crimes that I'm charged with. And I was also at some point convicted and stayed for 3 months with convict. Before I then appealed, bail pending appeal, I got my bail pending appeal. And they were saying, no, we don't want to get out, some of them. But we want better lives here. And we want also, some of us are about to finish their jail terms. We want to find a Zimbabwe where we will not be forced to get into crime for survival. So they were saying, no, we know in the Constitution says all Zimbabweans have the right to vote, but we are barred from voting, we can't vote. So please, you guys, if you get out, tell others who are out there to register to vote and vote on our behalf. Because if you are to vote, we are definitely not going to vote for the status quo. And yes, they have right to say so. They have right to say so. Because that person will be telling you that it's someone who, their skin will be cracked. I didn't know of pelagia or pelagia, I don't know how it's pronounced. Where your skin cracks due to malnutrition. At first I thought it was leprosy or something. Then I was told, no, it's pelagia. I didn't know of that disease. I only thought maybe it's kwashiorkor or something due to malnutrition. But I saw of that disease, I saw of that ailment. People were suffering, So I would spend most of my time.
I'm really sorry about everything you went through, Umako. I mean, just listening to you give someone, it's just so heartbreaking. But I would rather encourage you to also continue to use your voice for people to understand exactly what others are going through in those prisons. But let's go back to politics. You were with the MDC, like you said, during Morgan Tsvangirai's time. Then there's been issues in MDC. MDC has split. There's MDC, there was MDCA, there was MDC Alliance, then there was the MDCT, which now we have Dr. Monzora is leading. Now we have CCC. I just want to understand from you, both Dr. Monzora and Nelson Chamisa were rather Tsvangirai's children. Just like you, we're all under Tsvangirai. Why did you choose CCC instead of the MDC that the founder, Tsvangirai, founded when you were there under him?
Number one, it was the realization that we are in a competitive authoritarian dictatorship. You know what a competitive authoritarian dictatorship does? It preaches democracy, but does everything to undermine the processes, the systems, and the institutions of democracy. They preach the need to hold free and fair elections, but they do everything to undermine free and fair elections. So elections for them will be just a process to justify their continued reign. Elections for them will just be a means to legitimize their...
Who are we referring to right now?
I'm referring to ZANU-PF. So,
okay.
Yeah, because I'm going to the core of the question you answered.
Okay.
You asked. So if we look at them now, look at that situation now, these people, a competitive authoritarian dictatorship, what it needs above all, or what it does, it uses number one, state capture, then number two, capture of critical voices within society, then number three, capture of the vehicles of change, of alternative voices. And they've done that. They've captured state security services, at least at the apex, because I know that the juniors in the army, police, CIO, they don't want this nonsense. They're not. They are suffering. I've met them in prison. They're getting arrested for various, offenses, and they've told me that they don't really like this situation, and they don't like the status quo. It's just the political commanders at the top who get abused and who pour along, because they are the only ones who are benefiting. No soldier is benefited after, especially after Operation Stolekas. They are suffering. Their lives went gone worse. They used to earn $540 civil servants when Mugabe was still there, but now they are earning less than $200, $120 at most. They are suffering more. So no soldier, no junior soldier, no junior police officer, no junior prison officer, no junior central intelligence officer is happy with the current status quo. I've spent time with them, member time with some of them who got arrested for various prison. Some of them were just politically motivated, and some of them were due to the contradictions within the current regime. They are not happy. Go to prison, they are there in their numbers. So this is information for free, and I appreciate the regime for putting me in prison, because I got to understand this other aspect of life. That police officers, they're not our enemies. Soldiers are not our enemies. CIOs are not our enemies. But they are fellow citizens like us, want better. But due to the nature of their jobs, they can't express themselves freely as we do. And they are also repressed. They're also oppressed by their political commanders within the security sector. So when we speak or degrade or attack those securocrats, it's to do with those at the apex. It's not with the juniors, because the juniors are also suffering just like us. The juniors are also young people like me. People that I went to school with, they are also soldiers. Some are within the CIOs, some are within the police, some are within the justice system. And they would tell me, we would meet, they would inform me that your case is complicated because so is saying this and that. But under the law, you have done nothing wrong. I met them, and I feel for them, and we also need to speak on their behalf. It's something that we need to do. The people of Zimbabwe, they need also to understand that aspect. They need to understand that aspect, that there are also soldiers who are suffering. There are also police officers who are suffering. There are also CIOs who are suffering, simply because they had acted in a manner which was considered not consistent with entrenching dictatorship in Zimbabwe. They had failed to even, accept illegal orders, but something that they can't go public about. It was to make their life more difficult. Some of them have been killed. So when we speak of security forces, it's something that needs to be understood. That the bulk of them, especially the junior ones, they are suffering just like the rest of us. They are not staying in Borotel. They're not staying north of Samora. They're not staying in Mandara. They don't have security in their homes. They're staying with us in the ghettos. They're suffering with us in the ghettos. They are also victims of expensive prices, as just like us in the ghettos. They can't send their children to school just like us in the ghettos. They can't afford, basic meals per day, just like us, the downtrodden, who stay in the south of Samora. You understand? So it's something that we need to really comprehend. Then going back to the question, why I chose Triple C. It was because the leadership, the traditional leadership within the opposition, led by President Nelson Chamisa, so that realized that they have captured critical state institutions, like within the judiciary, within the apex of the securocrats. They also captured some of the activists. There are people that we got arrested with, whom I cannot even look in the eye now, whom I cannot even text a message, say hi. They were fellow comrades, but they are now captured. They've made a total turnaround in terms of, if you see the way they speak, the way they do their, even they tweet, the way they even act now. It's like, I know these people. I've known them. I've suffered with them. I've been in prison with them. And when you're in prison or get oppressed, it's where you get to understand your fellow comrade, not only physically, but you bare your soul to each other. You bare your soul to each other because you're in a situation where of life and death, where you're about to die. So everything you'll be saying, it will be something maybe you consider to be your last words of some sort. I've been with a number of them, but now you see them singing a different tune, singing the songs from the hymn book of the oppressor. And the only difference is that they are captured. They are now thinking with their bellies, their tummies instead of their brains, instead of their conscience, instead of their,
Have
the
they
issues that they
joined?
used to.
Have they joined ZANU PF or?
Some have joined ZANU PF, some have joined the pseudo institutions which are very loyal to ZANU PF, and some pretend to.
What's wrong with the network?
Hello?
Oh wow. Okay, you had disappeared.
So,
you had disappeared.
oh no, someone was trying to do a direct call, so I just cut them. Sorry for the disturbance. I think I should have maybe disabled the calls beforehand. So you see that now, what the leadership did, what the people did was the leadership simply followed the people. What they simply did was to put the struggle back to the people. The people we do not care about a name of a political formation. We are not loyal to MDC. We are not loyal to Harvest House. We are not loyal to slogans. We are not loyal to colors. But we are loyal to Zimbabwe, to a progressive Zimbabwe. We are loyal to the ideal Zimbabwe, which is inclusive and democratic, where all citizens' issues and concerns are yet addressed. We are loyal to better. We are loyal to humanity. We are loyal to love. So what simply happened was the leadership, when ZANU-PF thought that through the courts and through some erratic the top officials in the party that Dr. Morgan Shefran left, they thought that if they captured them, if they captured the people, but they misread the whole situation. The people are not loyal to all of that, to all those symbols, to empty slogans, to name.